get to the news. The White House announced on Friday that President Biden had a cancerous skin lesion removed from his chest, and the lesion is already running 2 points ahead of DeSantis. Former President Trump attended CPAC over the weekend and told reporters he would not drop out of the 2024 election if he's indicted on criminal charges. You know, we compare him to a mobster all the time, but now he's literally saying, no problem, I could still run things from the joint. In his speech over the weekend at CPAC, former President Trump said that before he came along, the Republican Party was run by freaks and fools. Yeah, nothing like the Rhodes Scholars we have today. That's like going to Orlando and saying, you know, it wasn't always this nice. Donald Trump Jr.'s fiancée, Kimberly Guilfoyle, spoke over the weekend at CPAC, and it looked like a rousing speech until they cut to the audience. Take a look.
All of us in this room have one message to Joe Biden. It is time to put America first.
Which brings us to a segment called Where is Everybody? Where is everybody? I've never seen a theater that empty, and I used to do long-form improv. I've been in elevators more crowded than that. Where is it? Did they accidentally schedule you against Kid Rock karaoke? That speech must have taken twice as long just to account for the echo. Speaking of, why are you yelling? It's not like you need to play to the back of the house. And what's this? All of us in the room have one message for Joe Biden. You're the only one there. There couldn't be a second message in the room for Joe Biden. If anything, that room has one message for you. Bring it way down.
This has been Where is Everybody?
It's a hit. It's a hit new segment. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis spoke yesterday at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Specifically, he said, all these gotta go. TV host Rachel Ray has announced she's ending her talk show after 17 seasons. She made the decision in less than 30 minutes, but at home, it would take you 2 hours. Didn't do great, better than I thought it would do. So that's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying it's a win-win. There's definitely a win-lose. A woman in Florida recently set a Guinness World Record by running 23 ultramarathons in 23 days. In less happy news, her car is basically undrivable now. And finally, United Airlines has announced that it will offer T-Mobile customers free Wi-Fi on all flights. And Spirit announced that they're going to fly really close and you should be able to hop on their network. Good Photoshop. Good Photoshop. President Biden published an op-ed today in the New York Times, and that man is spiraling. Fox News host Tucker Carlson last night claimed that the security camera footage from the Capitol attack, quote, does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Yeah, okay, but when you cherry pick the footage you're showing, you can prove whatever you want. I could show you footage from John Wick that proves he's not violent. Take a look.
We'll grab you some Cuba later.
You're telling me that guy is a trained killer? Give me a break. The footage doesn't lie. After Fox News host Tucker Carlson aired exclusive security footage from the Capitol attack, former President Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, let the January 6th prisoners go. You guys know we can see what you're doing, right? Kevin McCarthy, who is Trump's Waylon Smithers, gives all the footage to Tucker. Tucker shows only the tame parts, and then Trump claims the rioters were framed. It's like watching a magic show where the magician is wearing sheer sleeves. And he knew have very nice sheer sleeves on the magician. Didn't know how it was going to look. I find out with you guys. It's the best way to do quality control. In a new episode of her podcast, former First Lady Michelle Obama said that she sobbed uncontrollably for 30 minutes after leaving the White House at the end of President Obama's term, as opposed to her husband, who dealt with his post-presidency grief more stoically. Columbia University last week announced they will no longer require SAT or ACT scores in undergraduate admissions, while UMass announced that you no longer need that show and tell project. Massachusetts' own Mike Scollins. In a new interview, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg pushed back against critics characterizing him as being elitist and out of touch and said his critics, quote, wouldn't know their way around a TJ Maxx if their life depended on it. But if you're lost inside a TJ Maxx, your life does depend on it. That's right, Pete Buttigieg said, quote, you think Tucker Carlson knows the difference between a TJ Maxx and a Kohl's? Actually, he might, because aren't those his sons? TJ Maxx, Cole! It's time for lacrosse practice, let's go! Grocery delivery service HelloFresh confirmed yesterday it will stop selling coconut milk from Thailand over concerns of forced monkey labor. From now on, they're only going to use union monkeys. A group of entrepreneurs in Massachusetts have filed paperwork to open a topless marijuana dispensary, though they might run into some legal issues since they're 10. Hi, we'd like to file some papers. Yeah, we have an idea for a business. Can we put here, don't tell our parents? And finally, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, Dairy Queen is offering its new Under the Rainbow Shake, which features vanilla soft serve and multicolored sprinkles. And Arby's is honoring St. Patty's Day by driving all the snakes out of the kitchen. The White House said yesterday that it supports a new bipartisan bill that would give President Biden the power to ban TikTok. Of course, Biden could end TikTok at any time simply by making an account. Okay. This jumped the shark. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger issued a statement yesterday criticizing Fox News host Tucker Carlson's release of security footage from the January 6th attack and said Carlson made, quote, offensive and misleading conclusions. Of course, that's just what it says when you turn on his closed captioning. According to newly released legal documents, Fox News host Tucker Carlson told colleagues after the 2020 election, quote, we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. Wait, are you telling me Tucker Carlson is secretly sane? I would feel so betrayed if I was a Fox viewer. This is like if you joined a cult, sold all your belongings, shaved your head, moved to the desert, and then it turns out the cult leader is just like a Methodist. Voters in Oklahoma rejected a measure yesterday to legalize the recreational use of marijuana. Apparently, time already moves slowly enough in Oklahoma. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis reportedly sent a letter to President Biden requesting that he allow tennis star Novak Djokovic to enter the country to play in the Miami Open tournament. That story again, Ron DeSantis begs Biden to open the border. After Senator Bernie Sanders threatened to subpoena him, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz has agreed to testify before the Senate's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And much like a black coffee from Starbucks, this has been brewing for a very long time. We talked, I'll be honest, behind the scenes, we talked a little bit. Like, is that joke going to work at all? And it worked a little. A venti? How do you say a little? Tall. That coffee joke worked at all. My callback didn't work at all. You know what? We're getting there. We've almost put a button on this. Feel like I should have gotten out a minute ago. That's right. Oh boy, now there's a follow-up Starbucks joke. Way to keep the flow going, Myers. That's right. Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz will testify before a Senate committee as part of an investigation into the chain's labor practices. And while he's there, they've also got some questions about those egg bites. And finally, Tinder recently released an Australian edition of its dating dictionary, which includes the phrase kitten fishing, that means, quote, changing aspects of yourself to appear more attractive to others, or as we call that here, dating. President Biden unveiled his new budget today, which proposes a 25% minimum tax on households worth more than $100 million. Finally, some good news for people whose households are worth $99 million. The White House yesterday criticized Fox News host Tucker Carlson for his misleading portrayal of the Capitol attack and said, quote, Tucker Carlson is not credible. And I think they're right, because Tucker then said, thank you, Mr. President, I respect your opinion. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' new book debuted this week at the #1 spot on the New York Times bestsellers list. To be fair, everything else has been banned. Now I see why. Former President Trump is set next month to publish a new book of private letters sent to him titled Letters to Trump, though really, it's mostly final notices from utility companies. That's right, Trump is publishing a new book titled Letters to Trump, and I have to say, some of them are pretty heartbreaking. The CDC has launched an investigation after more than 300 people on board the Princess Cruises ship Ruby Princess fell ill during a recent voyage, and then the investigation ended at the word cruises. Yep, there's your problem. Federal authorities this week charged a man with conspiracy to commit wire fraud after he allegedly sold fake sports trading cards. Said a buyer, "You mean this isn't a real Michael Jordan?" The Las Vegas mansion that belonged to the late illusionist Siegfried and Roy recently went up for sale for $3 million. It would have been $4 million, but you know, they had cats. A car recently crashed through the window of a cafe in Houston and narrowly missed hitting two men who were recording a podcast. Nobody was injured, but sadly, the men were able to finish their podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. And finally, the makers of Hidden Valley Ranch announced today that they've collaborated with ice cream company... I don't think the setups ever bum people out that much. And finally, the makers of Hidden Valley Ranch announced today that they've collaborated with ice cream company Van Leeuwen to offer a Hidden Valley Ranch ice cream. It's what people in the Midwest are calling a salad. You guys! That was a monologue. We're off and running.